Hey, welcome to Living Ardently. I'm your host, Adrian Giraldi. That's our co-host. He's over there, actually.
What's up, y'all?
Jurell, what's going on, dude? How you been?
Nothing. Got lots going on, and I was just telling Adrian. I was just telling you before the episode. Like, I was thinking about canceling this episode just because I'm just like down and I don't know, just feeling sad and depressed that our university went through a bunch of layoffs and lost like two really good friends, and I'm really feeling it. So, so that's like my low, but my high is that like we're here, we're alive. That's like the living person thing, but showing up sad isn't ideal, but like we show up anyways. So, but I thought it would be good to show up and answer some questions anyways, and sharing the vulnerability, because I know that other people are not feeling great, and that you all need to know that you're not alone.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and it's funny for me because too, I like overall haven't had a great week. My computer broke, so I'm looking at the computer. Like my Mac is here, but my monitor is here, and it's like a $300 fix. And it's like, and that's the cheapest I can get it to. So it's like big financial bummer when you're like trying to save up for a wedding and pay all these like deposits and stuff. And then Sarah, my fiance, has a couple things that like she has to worry about, and it's just like been a pretty tough week. And I was like, bad things comes in threes, so what's the next one? I know. They say it all the time.
That's what I'm feeling too. I mean, like, I just feel like also with like 2020, it's just like one thing after the other, after the other. When is it gonna end? Yeah. So it's been tough. I mean, like, how long has it been? It's been 5 months.
Yeah, dude. Almost like, more than
freaking 5 months.
We've been in quarantine or like under this pandemic longer than we have been in a normal year. Like it was three normal months, and now we've been in here for 5 months, and it's just like, man, cabin fever is gonna go crazy soon.
Yeah. So I think since I work in a school, so I guess shout out to all the teachers and people that work in education. I mean, I think all of us are getting another wave of like the COVID nightmare again. So whether you're going back or whether you're staying home, I'm feeling it, and I'm praying for you, and hopefully we can, be in community together and try to figure out a way to lean on the Lord even more, because that's what it takes. So where else are we gonna go?
Right.
Where else shall we go? What else would we do? So
it's true. So you're not suffering alone, y'all. I mean, we are suffering too, but we're here. There's hope in the resurrection. There's hope in everything that we do because we're Christians. So we're gonna go forward. We're gonna go on with this, and like we do these every month. We come in together and we do a Q&A. We ask some questions from our social media accounts, from The Living Person, from Living Ardently, and we kind of get some questions from our followers and we answer them here. So that's something we do. That's what we like to do. But we're about to go do that.
Sounds good.
As sad as we are. Let's get into it.
Hey.
All right, so we're gonna try to rapid fire some of these. I don't know, we don't have to rapid fire these, but like these are our first few easy ones. Like we do always, we do like the easy questions first, and then we get into like the deeper, harder questions. So we were like heavy on the heavy on the latter side of the heavy questions. So we'll go with it. So, but these are about food. So, what is your best meal that you can make?
Right now for me, it's my pork adobo.
Ooh.
I've been working on my pork adobo recipe for I want to say like 2.5 years, and I got it like over the quarantine. You might have seen it because you were watching some of those recipes.
Yeah.
I nailed it. So I have the recipe down. I can replicate it. Before, when I was cooking it when I was younger, I'm like, let me just pick a recipe and I'll just cook it tonight.
Yeah.
But now I think after a couple of years of working on and refining on the same recipe,
yeah,
I got it down. So
Did you get
chicken
it from-
adobo.
Did you get it from that book?
Well, I got what I thought was the main thing that I was missing from that book, which is called, what's it called? I Am Filipino.
Yeah.
I think that's the.
I'm bringing it out. Hold on. What's that?
I think that's the link on my personal Instagram
It's a link
bio
to your
right
what?
now.
To your Jurell Sison one?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
On my personal Instagram, it's link in bio. It's that book.
I Am Filipino. It's a recipe
Yeah.
book, but it's also very beautifully made.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So I got the final step from that book, which is to boil the sauce in a specific way and let it simmer in a specific way, and it makes it amazing. So
awesome.
chicken or pork adobo for me.
That's awesome. So if you guys don't know, if you don't follow Jurell on his personal account, so yeah, he runs Living Person.
That too.
He runs. Yeah, so he runs the Living Person, but he also has his personal account, Jurell Sison. Sison.
There you go.
Sea salt, like sea salt.
There you go.
So he shares a lot of his food recipes, his gardening stuff, and Sarah mentioned it yesterday. He was the other day. He's like I'm glad Jurell's giving me some gardening stuff, but I really want some food, things that he was doing.
Content.
Yeah, some food content again.
That's funny.
That was dying. So
I got to do more of that, huh?
Yeah.
And then also my favorite food story over the quarantine were these chicken and cheese fried hard tacos.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you fry the tacos. So you just
Oh, yeah.
you got to get a corn tortilla and then stuff it with chicken and cheese, fold it over, and then fry it.
I have
Holy
corn tortillas
smokes.
frozen still. I just don't know how to defrost them. You said that you can put them in. How do you defrost your?
I just will break them. I'll break 5 of them off and then toss them in the microwave for a little bit with a wet towel. So wet the towel and then put it in the microwave for 30 seconds at a time, and try it out.
Cool, I'll try
But
that.
yeah,
Anyway, you were saying something about that one.
that's one of my favorite things to make too.
That's
So.
great. Yeah,
What about you?
My favorite thing to make is steak. I love, or my mom's Filipino spaghetti. It's one or the other, but the steak is the one that I can make easily. Because you make.
What's on your steak? How do you do it?
So I like to get a nice ribeye, or I could go between anything, but ribeyes and New York strips are the ones that I like. One day I want to cook a Wagyu steak, but that's way beyond me right now. So
I don't even know what that is, bro.
it's it's a steak that has a ton of marbling in it. I don't know if you know what that means.
Yeah.
So just a lot of, for those of you who don't know what marbling means, it's just a lot of fat around the meat itself. So it's it just
the
makes
fat's
for,
white and then the
Yeah.
meat is red, so it looks like marbly.
Yeah.
Right?
And it just creates the fat makes so much flavor in it, and it's just so tender. So that steak is usually pretty expensive if you try to get that. But you can get some pretty good marble on a ribeye if you look good enough. And so I like to I go to my local chop shop over here in town, and it's awesome because not every town has a chop shop, which is a meat store. And I get that, and I get some either some steamed broccoli or some whatever green that people want, roasted or not, or steamed, whatever. And then I just season it with salt and pepper, and sometimes I add the steak seasoning that I got from Disney, but I often just leave it at salt and pepper because I just love me some simple steak. And I take Gordon Ramsay's take on it and use this cast iron pan, a lot of butter, a lot of basting, and I put some garlic and some rosemary as I cook, and it's fantastic.
That sounds so good, man.
So when people come, they're all right, so you're gonna make me a steak? I'm sure, I got you. It's what I'm known for now.
That's legit. How do you take the steak? How do you cook it?
Medium rare, period.
Medium rare. Period. That's what I order. And then Bridget loves, well, I think Bridget likes medium well.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So we settle for medium.
Medium. Yeah, that's fair.
It hurts my heart a little bit, but it's a little bit painful.
Yeah.
But I'm the same, medium
My
medium
favorite,
rare.
my favorite thing to watch on Instagram, something like most days, are like the steak, like those barbecue steak like accounts that just like post and cut the meats and Salt Bay and all. That's like my favorite thing to watch.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's a gimmick, man. He kills it.
Wait, I gotta pull something up. I want to see if I can find it.
Go for it.
My friend sent me this emoji, and I was dying.
But that's like his normal videos. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know. Because I got over COVID. I got an air fryer, so I was just like going crazy with the air fryer. So this friend of mine was asking if she should get an air fryer. So then her husband was like, "No way! Like I'm all about the smoker and things like that." So he sent that the Salt Bay. I still think about it.
That's hilarious. Oh, man. Oh, gosh. So the next question. I mean, the easy questions today, like I said, it's all about food. So what is your favorite fast food is our next question.
McDonald's, hands down.
McDonald's, Mickey D's. I mean, I guess. It's all reliable.
It's my like emotional attachment to the restaurant. So we would go to church on Sundays, and then after church we'd go straight to McDonald's.
Oh, okay, I see.
And my dad, as an immigrant, loves hamburgers and cheeseburgers. You know, like when when we go out to eat, it's not like we're going out for steak. He's like, I want an American cheeseburger. You know.
Yeah. Wow.
So and then has this whole story about how he only had like I don't know $20 in his pocket. He bought like a book to go to do his like certification to be a medical technologist, and with the rest of the money he bought a cheeseburger at McDonald's. You know?
That's awesome.
So there's an emotional attachment there, but you're right, it's reliable, and I just like, I know it's trash for you, but I just like it.
You like those nugs.
I love the nuggets. Oh man.
Mine is it's like it balances between Chick-fil-A and Wendy's.
Wendy's.
Yeah, isn't that it's also kind of a sentimental thing, I think, because my parents actually met at a Wendy's.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my mom was working as an employee and cashier or something like that, and my dad was working as a waiter up in New York, and he went there on his lunch breaks, and then after he met my mom, he never stopped going there on his lunch breaks. Apparently.
Yo.
So
what a time.
Yeah,
what a story.
I know, and apparently my dad laid on my mom like a really cheesy, you know, I've never seen any woman beautiful than you, kind of cheesy quote.
Straightforward, straightforward. Yeah. I like it.
See, I don't know how straightforward he was in person, but that's what my mom said that he said, and I was like, wow, look at him go. But Chick-fil-A, because of this experience, hands down, like it's just like. And the sauce. The sauce is awesome. That's just like my favorite sauce ever.
Which sauce? Oh, the Chick-fil-A
sauce. Yeah. It's just like really. I mean, it's really calorie heavy, but like, oh man,
yeah,
it's so good.
It's so good. Isn't it barbecue and honey mustard?
Basically, but there's something sweeter to it. They add some sort of sweetener, I think. And it's just like so like bad if you're on a diet, but also so great.
Yeah, I'm on a diet right now. It's not working.
Speaking of being on a diet, ice cream, brownies, or cookies.
You know, when we're doing this parenting method with Isaiah, where we try to encourage his decision making.
Yeah,
because that's the one skill that we want him to have, and especially as an adult, like it's so hard to make a decision.
Yeah.
So like for example, when it's bedtime, it's like. Isaiah, do you want, we'll say, Isaiah, do you want to play for 5 more minutes or do you want to go to bed? Mm-hmm. And he's like, 5 more minutes. So I know that's an obvious choice, but he still chooses it.
Yeah.
So lately he's learned to say something different. So yesterday I was like, Isaiah, do you want the purple grapes or the green grapes? He goes, green grapes and purple grapes. So he goes, green and purple. So ice cream and cookies.
Actually, those would be my two as well. Unless you're doing an a la mode brownie. And then you
and
might
then
get me. Yeah.
And then fine, yeah. But I think I prefer brownies with milk, you know?
Oh, really?
I think so.
You don't?
But
Do you like your cookies with milk or without?
with, for sure.
With, yeah.
But if I had a choice, I think I'd eat it with ice cream.
Yeah, I think ice cream. If I had to choose from all three of them, I think it would be ice cream. Period. Because
Yeah, same.
Because like that's the only thing of the three that you could really enjoy on its own, and not feel like you need anything else.
I agree.
Right. So the cookies,
100%.
like sometimes you'll be like, oh, I wish I had a glass of milk, or like, oh, this would be really good with blah 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 blah. You know.
Yeah.
But like ice cream, you don't really say that. You maybe say
Right.
like, I would like this on a cone. Right.
Right.
Or I would like this in a bowl, but
On a cookie, maybe.
maybe. But I would also like this just straight out of the carton. Like, you know?
I know.
So I'll say ice cream. Ice cream is my go-to always.
I agree. What was I going to say? I feel like growing up with, immigrant parents from the Philippines, there was just no dessert. Like we didn't do dessert.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like dinner. Like eat your dinner.
Have seconds and thirds.
I know, seconds and thirds. Gosh, that was such a weird. I would go over to, my friend's house who was not Filipino, and then they would make the right amount for everybody. I'm like, what the? Like, where's the seconds? Like, not even no thirds, no seconds. Like what?
What kind of communist?
And then they would have dessert, which was cool, but like. Up until recently, maybe in like the last 2 years, like just was not a dessert fan. But now I'm just like crazy addicted.
Oh, really?
Crazy addicted to sweets.
So my family was such a big dessert family. Like we all
Really?
have sweet tooth, so like we always had ube ice cream like on demand. Like so
Still?
Not now because it's harder to come by, but like definitely when I was younger we had it. Like we either had ube ice cream or like cookies and cream, or like we also had turon made like always, and so it's just like a lot of sweets. And if not,
never sweets. We never had sweets.
That's so funny. Well, that's probably better because you don't create that addiction to it.
Yeah.
I
love food. I have an addiction to food, so
I mean, same.
love it. Yeah.
So that's basically it for the easy questions, because now we just get whoosh, like haymaker after haymaker this week.
Boom, boom. Oh, look at my punching bag. I just got a new punching bag.
Oh, nice. You're doing some kickboxing?
I'm doing some boxing.
Nice. I love boxing.
And just to get some frustration out, it's been really good. And to work out a little bit. So
yeah. It's sick. I love I was into boxing before I moved here. And I was kind of into it when I moved here like 3 years ago, and I was like, I have gloves. I have like 2 pairs of gloves, and it's just like, it just feels great to like hit a bag for like 2 minutes, you know?
The inner Manny Pacquiao comes out.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah. You ever watch him train?
Yes, dude. Have you seen the documentary?
No, there's a documentary.
They have a Pacquiao, the documentary called Manny, and I think it came out in 2014 or 2015.
Wow, no,
dude, it's so good. I would show it in my theology class in high school, and so many people would say that was their favorite lesson, because I linked the Manny Pacquiao documentary with teaching the life of St. Paul, because Pacquiao had this crazy conversion, and he just talks about how he saw the light. Like he was like gambling and doing all these crazy things and falling down whatever path, and then he just woke up and like saw this bright light, you know. So you gotta watch it. It's so
awesome.
good.
I have to go check that out. Yeah, But like my
Tangent.
Tangent. Pacquiao when he fights, when he trains, I mentioned that because he goes ah, like so like.
And it's like, oh, it's so fast.
It's so
dude.
fast, and he's landing every single. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, so great tangent. But here's another one. Here's one of the haymakers. It's actually not that much of a haymaker yet, but this is like a good jab and hook.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a mid argument, debate, and realized you were wrong? And what did you do? So I'm trying to recall.
I think so. Yeah, I think it happens to me a lot of times. I think in high school I used. They wanted us to teach in a way that would prioritize discussions, and like you say something. Like I would always encourage my students to just say something, even if it's wrong, and we'll be very forgiving if you want to change your mind, because that's the entire point of a discussion, is that you would be humble enough and courageous enough to just put where you are out there, and have the humility of being willing to change your mind. It's like, actually, great point. Now I can see what you're talking about. I can see the complexities of the situation, and now I have more empathy towards this position, and I can see how that works, and blah blah blah. So I have that in me. So I'm still terrible at like figuring out how to navigate, like how to just, because sometimes you just pretend like, oh crap, like I feel like I'm wrong, and then you just see it through and like just let it play out. But there have been times where it's like, that probably wasn't the best thing to say, and I'll just say that and say I'm sorry. Like I see where you're coming from now. Yeah. I'm also watching this Netflix show called, it's such a good show. It's called Love on the Spectrum. Have you seen it?
No.
It's a dating show.
Oh,
so
really?
Going back to my love for The Bachelor, but it's not The Bachelor. And again, this is a TV show that my wife Bridget started watching, but she's like, "You want to watch this with me?" So I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Let's hang out." It's a dating show. But I think it's set in London, so it's much more innocent, and it is telling the stories of people who are on the spectrum trying to find love.
Oh.
So a lot of the people, the stories that they're telling have disabilities, and I think most all of them have autism or Asperger's. So this one guy made this comment. He goes, they introduce each other, and he goes, it's like, well, why? I didn't realize, what did he say? He's like, you don't look like you have autism. Or he goes, you don't look like you have Asperger's. He's like, really? What does Asperger's look like to you? The girl says that. He's like, this is what he says. And just like that, I was made aware how blind I am. So it's just like, the TV show is amazing, but like awesome. that TV show I just watched yesterday, I was like, wow, like got a lot to learn from just like that single comment. And just like that, I've realized how blind I am. Right. Like, wow, I would like to do that. Like be confident in that type of like discussion, like to be able to have a good discussion like that. So but it's really hard sometimes. Like, why would you ever want to admit that you're wrong? Everybody wants to be right. Like, I've got all these years of ministry and school and experience and blah blah blah. So yeah.
It's so hard to like to do that. I mean, I think as you're talking, it kind of reminds me of like times when I was younger where I was doing that too, or I was doing the opposite of what you were doing in high school. When you're teaching your high school classes, like I, on the opposite side, when I was in high school, would defend something to the death of me, even if I wasn't sure if it was true or not,
Yeah.
And then, so that made me a pretty good, like, a fiery, like, convert. Like, I came back and I knew it was true, so I was like, yeah, no, I got, like, evidence. Like,
yeah.
But then I wasn't really well trained in my theology yet, so, like, it was really just a shouting match.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get into them all the time, but you know, I would. Whenever I got into them, I knew that I wasn't going out a loser, regardless. And I was. I mean, it was just arrogance and pride. But as of late, I think in college when I started to learn how to like, oh, okay, like I see where you're coming from, and having an actual conversation rather than an argument. You know. And so I think that's the difference. Like, if you realize you're wrong and you're able to admit it, that changes the argument to just a conversation, a dialogue per se. You know, and I think that's what we should be able to do right now, especially with all the social justice things that are going on with racism and stuff like that. We should be able to have conversations and discussions and dialogue rather than arguments. You know. Like, we should be able to listen to each other and be willing to listen to each other. And look, it seems like, you know, that sounds like what everyone's kind of getting, understanding too, you know, right now. But if we're able to continue that, you know, like mentality of like knowing the difference between those two, and being able to like drop the pride when necessary, you know, like, okay, like I'm wrong here. I'm like obviously not very well versed in this conversation yet, or I don't know what I'm talking about, and it's okay to admit that. You know, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. It is not the end of the world if you were defending something that you were actually, you know, ignorant to. You know, it's not a fault to your own, and just because you didn't know what actually happens, then, you know, it's okay to admit it. It makes you look like a better person if you're able to admit it too. You know, that's another thing. But yeah, it took me a while to kind of get to that point, I think. And I think in college, like I said, was when I started to learn. It's like, oh, okay, maybe you're right. Like, maybe I've learned differently growing up, and it's helped me to understand that I'm wrong, and may I have to look into it more. So.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, especially if you're evangelizing, y'all, like, while working with teens, they'll ask some pretty hard questions, like some of these questions here. And, you know, it's okay to say, it's like, I don't know, I'm going to research it and let you know. Like, instead of, like, fighting your way through, like, a theological discussion with something you're ignorant to. Like, you're doing more harm to the church than you are, you know, bringing it to their, you know, like, to the church and to their soul, than you are helping, you know. So that's just kind of like, you know, I have a lot of experience in trying to do that, you know, where I'm like, well, because God, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Like, you know, like, that's
it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go, because then you keep reaching. And like, now that you said like the difference between conversation and argument, now I'm thinking more about like arguing with my spouse, you know. It's like that's actually like probably more realistic. It's like if you have a relationship, it's like when you're arguing with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your fiance or your wife or husband, blah blah blah. It's like, man, like an argument happens. It's something little, and it's like for whatever reason, like you can't it's like true. So hard to let go. Like, you know you're wrong, you know, like, and then I keep reaching. But you did this and you did this and but this and this and this, and then like a little bit of time passes for me. Let's say like 15 or 20 minutes. I'm like, oh shit, like time to apologize.
You
know.
Yeah. It's true. It's so hard, but you know, it helps. It helps to just like, to get better at that. All you gotta do is start like admitting that I was wrong. Okay, and saying that it's like, I was wrong. I didn't understand, and this and that, and then eventually just builds a habit within you to kind of like be able to admit it. You know.
I also bring it to prayer too.
Obviously,
bring it to Jesus. Like sometimes I know I'm wrong, but sometimes I have to search for it. It's like, I'll just be honest and be like, Jesus, what the frick, you know? Like, I feel this way. I feel like I'm in the right here, but like stuff's not working. Like, I don't know what to do. Blah blah blah. and then you try to sit with it and bring it to prayer, and maybe that will contribute to some clarity,
Yeah.
But the answer is always forgiveness, you know what I mean? Like, and the answer is always trying to find how to restore and how to reconcile those relationships, no matter how much you disagree. And that's part of the struggle of Christian life,
Yeah, it's true.
You might legit hate this person, you might hate their guts, but man, if you claim to be a Christian, like, there's some hard work ahead,
Yeah.
So
the next that's I think having to relate to the next question, which is pretty cool, is how to grow in holiness outside of prayer and scripture. And I mean, I think one of my first knee-jerk reactions, like, go to the sacraments. But if you're not Catholic, like, that's not something that you would like practice or understand, right? So if you wanted to be holy outside of prayer and scripture, I think really just learning to be in silence. I think there's a lot of like, silence is very sacred, not just in the fact that, like, we don't get it enough, but there's some restorative power in silence, and if you're able to get to that, I feel like being able to be silent in your, like, totally, like, mind, like, what you're doing is like beyond, like, I don't know, it's just so hard for me to do it unless I'm in a place of prayer. Like, if I'm at home or anything else, like the most I get silence out of my day is when I'm driving and I turn the radio off, or I don't have any music or podcast playing and I just drive silent. But yeah, I think that's, like, one of the biggest things for me is, like, if you're trying to grow in holiness outside of, like, regular prayer, out of scripture, and if out of the and, like, it's obviously the sacraments, but if you don't practice the sacraments, and you're not Catholic, definitely, like, growing in holiness, I think goes back to just being able to be silent with yourself and with everything, and not do anything or feel like you need to.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think when I see the question, to me it seems like, okay, I've tried praying with scripture, I've tried prayer, like formal prayer. What else can I do? And I have the same answer: silent prayer. I mean, like, that's where you encounter, I think, God's voice. Like, that's where you encounter those, like, little whispers from God.
Right.
But I think another thing that's been true to my experience from just, like, being a parent, that's just, like, so much of my life right now, is I listened to a speaker at a Theology on Tap, and he said, when you go up to receive Eucharist, he was describing how, like, your composition and your body makeup changes. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah.
when you walk into the communion line, you're more somber, you're more reverent, you're more gentle. You're not like this. You're not like, all right, let's go, efficiency. You kind of, like, you move slower and more intentionally, and like, you put Jesus, you consume Jesus, and you're like, look very reverent. And then you walk back to your pew. He said he challenged me and, like, everybody else in the audience, and he said, you take that same reverence and you take that same gentleness and you apply it to your spouse. And you apply it to your children as you're changing their diaper, and you apply it to the people in your office that are frustrating you. Is every person sacred? If your answer is yes, then, like, the same like, bodily responses can and maybe should apply in those types of situations. So I think, like, how can you grow in holiness? You take your inspiration from your scripture, your inspiration from your formal prayers, your inspiration from your silence, and you freaking live out your faith.
True.
And you try to apply it, because that's the point of it anyways.
Yeah.
And when you try it and you fail, you keep on trying, because that will lead to, I think, so much growth. And you try it and you fail, and then it leads you to more prayer, because you can't do it on your own strength and your own will. Like you need God's inspiration and God's strength and the strength of the Spirit to be gentle and to be reverent to people that are, jerks to you, and things like that. So I think that's where I find it the most challenging, and that's also where I find the most growth. It's like, God, am I living out your will? Am I living out your gentleness? Am I living out your love in each segment and moment in my life? And I think that you'll find some growth there. You'll have more honest conversations with God too,
Yeah.
And then it's just like ongoing cycle of like prayer and work, ora et laborum. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
It's so true, because when you're going, like, when I like at our church, we have to distribute communion right now, and it's like the staff is like, we're the ones doing it, or like, outside of our priests, we help our retired priests who can't do it. So we're not letting any lay ministers come except for the staff, just to minimize points of contact for corona. And so like when I'm carrying the ciborium, like I am so like protective and gentle, but like if I was like that with every person I met, like what would change, So it's really interesting. That's awesome. That's great to think about. So we'll take a break right here, and we'll come back with some more questions that you guys submitted. All right, we're back from our break. So next question we have here, again, more haymakers. They just get harder and harder as we go. So let's keep on going, all right? So how do we get over a bad breakup? Yes, I've gone through a few of those. And they suck, man. Like, I would just be honest with you, whether you're a woman or a man, they suck. Especially if you're the one being broken up with. But for those of you who have been broken up with, know that it's also still hard for those who broke up with you, because I've never had to do it. Done it. I've been broken up both times, but it's like it sucks, but it's still a hard decision for them to make, regardless of what you think. It was still a hard decision. And it might not look like it from the outside, but know that it hurts almost just as much as it hurts you, And there's times where they know that it was time when they broke up with you, but it still hurts them because they either obviously appreciate you in a way, and unless it's a toxic relationship, then there's no reason for you to not be hurt, and so understand that getting over it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be tough, and cry if you need to cry, but don't be alone in it, That's my biggest tip is, be with some friends, be with some people that love you, and help them, let them remind you of your worth and your how loved you are, because that's something that you start to second guess after you're broken up with, like if you're worthy, or if you're worth it. Are you hard to handle? Are you lovable? And those are like the two biggest things that I would say, like, you need to do is go with some friends who remind you of that, and that's what helped me through those times. And so that's like my two biggest advice when my teens ask me that, and like, how do you get over a bad breakup? I was like, no, you don't go sulk and cry in your room. I mean, yeah, you can do that, but like, do that and then go. Don't stay there, because you stay there, it feels good to stay there and cry. It feels good to throw on some sad music and just like cry for a couple of hours, watch a sad movie and cry for a couple of hours. But if you stay there, that's your entire story. That's all you are. You have to remind yourself of who you are as a beloved daughter and son, how loved you are, how worthy you are, and how beautiful your life is. And that, again, is something you will start to question when you get broken up with, or you going through a bad breakup. So that's just a bit of my advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, I don't I have like so much to say, but then I have nothing to say at the same time. I feel like, I feel like, you know, with the stuff that I'm going through, I keep wondering why I'm so sad, you know, like, or why am I so depressed, or why am I so sad? And it's like I keep telling myself I shouldn't be this sad, you know, like, but for some reason, like, it's like weighing so heavy, and it's like 10 times harder to get up in the morning, and 10 times harder to do like the work that I love, you know what I mean? So number one, I just want you to know that I'm with you in this a little bit. If you're experiencing that like heartbreak, heartbreak is not physical pain, but like it's like that deep emotional pain that makes everything so much harder. It feels like you're swimming in like this like thick molasses or something, you know. So you just gotta get like, and then like you try to get out of bed, and then your body feels like it's 10,000 pounds, you know, like you try, and then there's so much resistance that you stop trying. So I feel it right now, you know, I feel it right now. I think the things that are sticking out to me that might help you is that talking to some friends, and my one friend wanted to meet up. I'm like, I don't want to meet with him, you know, like he's like, I haven't done the processing yet, and if I talk to him, I'm gonna break down, you know. But like I couldn't really avoid it, so I talked to him, and like I broke down, you know. Just started like not like weeping, but like tearing up and crying a little bit because of what I was going through. And he said, you know, like I wonder if what you're feeling a little bit is that like you feel like you shouldn't, you feel like it's so minimal that you're not allowing yourself to feel the pain of it, because you're like, oh, like COVID's so big, and like people are losing like family members, like why should I feel sad about this small thing? It's like you gotta stop playing the comparison game and recognize your pain for what it is. It hurts, you know, and it's painful, and I think that's a part of the grieving process, is like sitting in it for a little bit, in the fullness of that pain, and then offering it back to God. So I think you have to wrestle with that somehow, like with the breakup. Like I think the breakups that I've gone through, like I've tried to go over it, I've tried to go under it, it's like try to like get past it somehow, but the only way to like heal from it is to go right through it. And if you're gonna have to go through it, I would prefer to go through it with you, you know, Adrian, or like with my loved ones that I can lean on to have a little bit more strength as I go through something that I inevitably have to go through. So, and I think so much of this is like, you're hurting and you want your pain to be heard, you know, like, I hear you, and I want you to know that I feel it and I see it. So, try your best. I know like it sucks to hear someone say like, pray, but, my journal's right here. And this has been my best friend lately, because I need to get it out. I've been swearing a little bit more in this episode, and that's because of like, like that's pretty much all I've been writing in here. You know, is like why did this happen, and because that's authentically what's going on in my life right now inside, and I need to get that out somehow. And I believe that God can handle it. God can handle it. But right now, like I went through this long journal entry, 2 pages or something. I think it was like a page and a half of like despair. Why this? And then I was like, okay, like I have to end with some sort of hope. What do I hope for? And I think that's true in the Psalms as well. Like whenever you are feeling despair, you got to promise yourself to end with hope. Like we're a hopeful people. or people that believes in hope, and that's what sets us apart in a lot of ways. So yeah,
it's true. That's a really good point too. And it's like, there's a couple more questions at the end there where we're talking about suffering, so like we'll get into that, but we'll revisit this topic kind of in the next couple of questions. But these also could cause people to suffer, these next two.
Is God a man or a woman?
So Ariana Grande wrote this song called "God Is a Woman," but is he? That's not the question. But is God a man or a woman? It's a very, very I think popular question as well. But if I remember my theology well, he's neither, or he's both and. Because he is God, and because whenever you talk about God, he's neither and both and at the same time, and and he's also simple and complicated at the same time. And he's three persons and one person at the same time. So so it's just like God is just so complicated, y'all. So like essentially, he isn't, but he's both.
The best answer for me is God is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, that's the thing that from I forget where it's from. Do you remember where it's from?
I learned it from a Steubenville conference. That was the theme.
Oh,
not that I learned it from there, but like it was a theme of a Steubenville conference, and I was like, that's the answer. Is God a man?
Oh,
or
I was thinking
God
about
a woman?
I am.
Oh yeah, that's from Exodus.
Yeah, Exodus.
But that's where it comes from too. Yeah. Moses asks God, what is your name? And then God responds, I am. Mm-hmm. And the person that asked this question, I love you. You are asking, is God a man or is God a woman? And the answer is, from my perspective, God is. God is. Mm-hmm. And that's as far as our tradition goes. Yeah. And then on top of that, I have this that I looked up in the Catechism. Paragraph 42, it says, God transcends all creatures. We must therefore continually purify our language of everything in it that is limited, image-bound or imperfect, if we are not to confuse our image of God, the inexpressible, the incomprehensible, the invisible, the ungraspable, with our human representations. Our human words always fall short of the mystery of God. Oh, boom! Let's go.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh! Remember that paragraph 42.
Paragraph 42.
Because we're always trying to put God into a box, and paragraph 42, is that humility check? Think again, bro. Think again.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
actually.
But at the same time, we how can we keep from talking about God? My entire existence wants to, what's the Magnificat? My soul exists to proclaim your name. I know that's not the exact translation. I'm just nervous and excited. I can't stop talking about God, but inevitably I'm going to be talking about God with human language and things that are familiar to me. And things that I find positive association in. So I'm talking about TV shows and Disney movies and positive, whole and fruitful relationships in my life. So I do understand for people that have had really abusive relationships with men, why that might be the case. But God is neither man or woman. God is. I think that's where. What I like right now, the answer that I like right now, but what else do you think?
Yeah, I think I hit it right on the head that we can't limit him to what we, our words. And it's just so well put because, like I said earlier, the theology behind, whenever you're trying to explain God as a Trinity, he's all three and one. But he's he's both and either or mean but he's more so both and than anything, we're both and church, which by the way Paradigm company, the t-shirt company, they're releasing this both and shirt, and it's just my favorite thing out there right now.
Nice.
Because
we need that.
We need to understand we are both and church. And we've completely forgotten that. And on like I showed it to some friends and like, what does that have to do with anything? And I was like, and see, that is why we need to remember why we are both in church, you know, and what that actually means.
Yeah.
That we can't be either or, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then the next question follows up with this. One of the harder questions that we've ever gotten, I think, since doing the Q&As is, why can't women be priests? And for some transparency here, we watched a few videos because we struggled with it before, like as we were kind of like talking about it. But it is the 3 videos we watched. It was Bishop Barron, Father Mike, and You Catholic.
Yep.
And some of the 3 most popular like people who were, you know, religious who answer
Church
some tough
leaders.
questions. Church leaders, you know.
Some of the most respected church leaders in our tradition, you know, admittedly Bishop Robert Barron said that this was a famously complicated question. At the time, I think it was Father because it was an older video.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is famously complicated. So
yeah, and that video was in 2009, so 11 years ago. It was complicated then, and it's hard still today. You know, and so we can link some of those videos in there because they're probably going to be a little more eloquent in how they answer it than we are. But even then, they like, you know, understand the suffering that can be caused by this topic. You know, there's a lot of women out there who want to be religious and who like feel like they can be a priest, and I think the answer is simply, you know, like, yes. Women, if like you were to just give them the task that a priest does, could be good priest, right? That's like, I'm not going to deny that, but it I think Father Mike said it like it's more than just a task and a job, and it goes back to the biblical parts of it. I think it was in one of the videos they mentioned that he looked back in the Bible and how close Christ was to these women, but yeah, he still took the 12 men to carry on the church and to be the leaders of the church. And so we followed that tradition, you know. We follow Christ in that, and just like as much as we follow the Eucharist and the Mass, you know, we follow it there, and that's why we didn't change anything about the Eucharist. We haven't changed anything about the priesthood, you know. And so there's still struggle for me as to maybe why women couldn't be deacons at least, because deacons weren't necessarily like a part of that, you know. So it's interesting, but at the same time, I mean, I think for me that's what hit me in the head is like, oh yeah, like he was close to Margaret, he was to Mary, and didn't make them priests. You know, he could have totally made his mom a priest if he wanted to, and like a bishop, but like he didn't. But he gave the priesthood to the 12 disciples that were there. So, yeah.
I think you can tell like we're I don't know. This is a hard question, and I think we are going to be like we're talking about the things that resonate with us. So I wanted to share mine, like what resonated with me with Father Barron's answer is that he talked about the power dynamic, and you know, like especially now with the anti-racist movement and equality and equal power, equal pay, things like that. Like that's what we're used to, you know. But he said like that's not quite how the Catholic Church works. That's not quite how our tradition works. He said like real power comes from being a saint, and that's something that really resonated with me. You know, like I'm such a critical thinker when it comes to theology, so admittedly I struggle with this issue too, because I mean, like all of my writers on Living Person are all women. Not all, but like a lot of them are women, and a lot of them are better than me, you know what I mean? Like
same.
And to be quite frank, a lot of the women that write for Blessed is She and a lot of the women on Instagram are 10 times better than the priest homilies and messages that I hear at church. Just being honest. So I think there's a lot of things to reconcile. There's a lot of questions, a lot of things that I'm thinking about, but that's something I really resonate with Bishop Barron. It's like real power does come from being a saint. And He said stuff like, Saint Thomas Aquinas says, if you want to be a saint, then will it. You can work on being a saint today, and the role of the priest is to serve the laity. And even in my struggle to, like, because I'm just being honest, like if a married clergy were an option, like I would seek it out, but like that's not an option. So just like trying to relate it to my own life, like Living Person was actually a response to, like, I want to serve the laity, like I can't be a priest because I'm married, but what did I actually want from that vocation of priesthood?
Yeah,
it was to serve the laity, and to bring my life experience and help people make sense of their faith and their relationship with God, which I worked really hard to build this platform of the Living Person, and like I have this platform and these spaces where I can do that, and then the rest of this becomes like so much more harder, because the way to serve the laity is to live your life as a faithful Christian, and living your life as a faithful Christian that follows the way of Jesus and all of the hardships and complexities and suffering that's involved in that path, which essentially leads to death, becomes a lot harder. So, the role of being a priest is to serve the laity, and true power comes from dedicating your life to God and trying your best to become holy, to become a saint, and that's something that you can do today. So I have some questions, and I have a lot of empathy for the women that feel like they would be great at it, and you would be great at it. You are better than so many other priests. So I feel like priests sometimes I want to say, like, can you take a look at these women and what they're doing, and will you please at least learn from them, and how beautiful their stories are, and how they serve the laity, because I feel like priests have a lot to learn from the women in our church,
Oh yeah.
So
I want to affirm that too. It's just that, like, ladies, you are such a gift to the church, a beautiful, beautiful gift, and what you offer to the church is irreplaceable. And so just because you can't be a priest doesn't take away from that, you serve such a beautiful role that we as men can't even like do, especially just the fact that you create life within your body. Like, we can't literally do that at all. And if it weren't for you and growing your families, like, the church would effectively be dead.
Yeah.
Priests got to come from somewhere.
Amen.
And so your roles as mothers, your role as as part of the laity, and how you can inspire other women and other priests and other people to be holy, like, it's huge. And so just because you can't get a role of a father or a priest, it's doesn't take away from your worth. And I feel, if you feel hurt by that, hurt by the fact that you can't be a priest, but we're here, and we understand, but again, remember your worth, and it's so much more than just having a title of priesthood.
Amen to that. Yeah. Amen.
So if you want to go, we have the videos that we watch, and probably a couple more resources down below in the show notes. I'll try to add some more. So if you want to read up on it, and if I can find something on the catechism, we'll share it down there below as well. But yeah, it's a definitely a difficult question, and it has been and always will be. So we'll try to, we answered it the best that we can, and I understand we're feeling for you. So I'll link the stuff in the show notes. So go check those out if you want to read more on that.
And keep asking the question, So I think each video we had a different perspective and a different answer and a different take. And the more people you ask, the more you learn about it, and the more you make sense of like what the situation is. So keep asking, keep being curious about it.
All right. So our last question for today, again, is like one of the really hard one. I put a poll, not a poll, a question out on Instagram, and I said, "What is the biggest questions that you had about your faith while you're growing up?" And this one was probably one of the harder ones to hear because I feel. And it says, "How can God love me and be my father when He allows terrible things to happen to me?" So let's just sit with that for a second because that one's heavy.
That one's so painful to even
Yeah.
listen to, like,
Yeah.
just sad. It's sad.
First of all, we just want to say sorry that you ever felt that way. That I'm sorry that things were going bad, I guess, for you growing up. And I mean, know that you're not alone in it because, I felt that way too at some points. Being raised in the church and being told the same things, that God loves me, that He is my Father, and He died for me. And then I turn around and see all the things that I just saw, all the things that were bad happening to me. I was like, okay, but what is this? I can imagine kids right now, like, who are living as high schoolers, middle schoolers right now, are probably feeling something like this year, like with all this stuff that's going on. Between the coronavirus, the racism, like all the stuff, like this is probably hurting so many people, and they're asking the same question, so I feel it's a hard thing, and know that how do you go from this, give me a second to think. So I think it's hard. I had to think for a bit, but as hard as it is, Angela's time.
Angela's 12.
Yeah. As hard as it is to hear, and you probably, like I said, you heard it many times already. It's like God loves you and loves you like a lot, right? And then despite the fact that you are probably going through so much, that you are suffering through a lot of stuff that are happening. Again, He's not making these happen to you. This is just a fact of our free will. He's not bad causes. I mean, and that's a hard thing to say me too. Like, all of these are not really that helpful to really say, but understanding yourself that you're not alone in that suffering, and that it's okay to feel like, I don't know, it's okay to feel sad about it, and yeah, God, it's still there, and He's not causing these things. I mean, maybe He is allowing these things because of His permissive will, right? If you want to get theological about it, but it doesn't make Him love you less, right? And He's making you go. He's probably making you go through these trials, right? Like, I've heard this over and over again. I don't know how helpful it is, but it's making you a holier person, getting you through these things, and it's hard, right? I mean, like, but imagine how strong your faith will be if you get through these and stay faithful, and what you can do with that experience, and how you can help others heal, if you're able to get through this, and know that other people have gone through it, and despite how different your situation might be from others, like girl, guy, whoever you are, you're strong as heck, strong.
Amen.
And you're going to get through it. Know that if you need someone to pray with, you can call our line, 407-853-2010, and we can pray together. Fam, it's all good. Like, I know it's hard, and sometimes you just can't be alone when you're feeling like this. So like I said earlier about the breakup, like, you got to be with people who remind you of your worth and your dignity. It's just kind of the same thing. Being around people who reflect God's love to you in the times where you feel like He's just allowing too many terrible things to happen to you, is a way to do that. And if you feel like you don't have any of those people in your life, like I said, that number is 407-853-2010. Give me a call. We'll pray. I'm not a counselor, though, like I said. So
That's beautiful, dude. I mean, like, even just this podcast, filming, I don't know, we started out really sad, dude. Like, I was like in the dumps. I was like, dang, like, I gotta like show up for Adrian today, but like, I didn't want to at first, but like, I'm feeling better, you know, like just like your presence are like back and forth, doing something that I love to do. So try to make a list of those things, like who are the people, what are the things that can help pull you out of some of this heartbreak. I mean, the theme of this episode has to be heartbreak, you know. But I think something a popular thought that I really struggle with is everything happens for a reason. And I understand where people are coming from when they say that, but I cringe sometimes because, you know, like, does that mean that God is making me suffer for a reason? You know, like, because then you got to ask the question, like, okay, like my little cousin who's 7 died of cancer, or so and so and so and so. Like, did God make that happen for a reason? Like, that's where it gets really tough, and like, I think that's where it's like so heartbreaking, but like it requires some sort of like deep dive, analytical, like, what do I believe about God? You know?
Right.
Because like I believe, we talked about this last time, I believe that God is love, you know? It is what has been taught to me, and like it does clash with like so many things in my life, like what the F, God, like why is this happening? So it does require, like, that's the worst part of it all, is like it requires another person to pull you out of it, to say like God's not doing this, you know, God's not doing this to you. Like, in fact, that's the exact opposite of what our Christian tradition tells us, is that like God isn't doing this to you, God is walking with you, you know. God, who is love, became human to walk with us in our suffering, our deepest, darkest suffering, you know. So and that's what I think is the impact and the strength and the uniqueness of the cross, and that's why I have a crucifix in my house, or that's why I have a crucifix in my office. That's why I have a crucifix in my desk, is because when I am suffering and when things don't make sense, I know that I have a God that knows that same pain, not even the same, but amplified times 100. And that's why I'm Christian. That's why I'm here. Is because I haven't found that in any other place, you know, like, and I have tried to find it in some other places, but haven't found it anywhere except for Jesus, you know. So, number one, God loves you, and number two, when it seems like God is doing all these messed up things in your life, try to reach out to somebody so that you can pull yourself out of that, and remember that we have a God that's like suffering with you, you know, because that is what I believe. What do you believe about God, you know? Right. So going back to the everything happens for a reason type thing, I just prefer to believe that sometimes messed up stuff just happens, you know. Human selfishness is in the world, and sometimes messed up stuff just like sometimes the stuff is so random. The randomness that causes so much pain and trauma is so heartbreaking. But, you know, the cross also says that even with all the trauma, even with all the pain, even with all the horror, it's not the end. Yeah. That's what I believe. So that takes a lot of like head work to like make those connections, especially when you're just in heartbreak in the middle of it. And I think that is the importance of the other person, or the people, the community, to strengthen you to analyze, like, what do I believe in all this? Does my faith play a role? And I believe yes. My faith in Jesus plays the most significant role when I'm sad, when I'm depressed, and when I'm suffering. So,
so true. And it's cool to say too, like, understanding, like, I'm just, when you're talking about this, hold on one sec. I'm gonna pick this up. Yeah, this is my favorite piece of art ever, and it's the Pieta. If you're not familiar, it is depiction of Christ being on Mary's lap right after he has died and taken down off the cross, and she's just carrying him like a little boy, like her son. And in this moment, Mary, I always think about it as Mary as a mother is probably devastated and crying. Like, even though, right, she knows of the resurrection, right? She knows what was going to happen, that this was going to happen. Doesn't mean that it took away from the suffering that it caused, right? And even though, she knows what's going to happen after this, right? If the prophecy fulfills if he fulfills the prophecy, right? Like, it's still, she still suffers. She still weeps. She still mourns. And so for you, as someone who's suffering and feels that way, like, it's okay to feel, to suffer and to cry, even though maybe eventually, it'll get better, or or maybe you just kind of start doubting God for a bit, but go through it, go through that muck, go through it, and but don't go through it alone. Know that Christ is walking with you in that muck. Know that you have friends that will walk with you in that muck if you just reach out. And some of your best friends you won't even need to tell them. They will know that they need to walk with you right now. But yeah, don't walk alone.
That's so good.
Yeah. So also, get one of these. This one's alabaster, and it's like an antique one. And it'll cost $70, but I got it for super cheap. So
that's amazing, dude.
Marble base. So, oh yeah, love that Pieta. Anyway, that's all we got.
Whew, what an episode! Man.
What an episode! It's like food and suffering. It's like the theme of the day.
That was really heavy stuff, bro.
Yeah,
that was really heavy stuff. But I'm glad that we I don't know. I'm grateful that you kind of got me out of my funk. So yeah, but then also grateful that we were able to help some people and say we're going through funk too, and yeah, be able to say same.
Yeah,
because I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think it's we always at Living Ardently. I tell my writers, and I just telling Jurell earlier, we thrive on vulnerability and transparency. We're not gonna pretend we're having a great time if we're not. If it sucks, if we're going through something, we're gonna show it, and it's okay to, because like I said, things like this happens, and we can go through it moping, dragging our feet, or we can go with a hopeful Christian spirit, and I think that's what we're called to be hopeful, to be people of the Easter people. But yeah, man, it's okay to be sad. I mean, we just did an entire episode feeling the same way, and the questions just whoosh, knocked us down on back to reality. So it happens, and it's okay. And so we suffer with you all, and know that we're not always woo, let's go all the time. But if you want to follow Jurell, The Living Person, go to the.living.person on Instagram. You can follow also his personal account at Jurell Sison.
Yep.
And then you can follow me in my personal account at It's Only Adrian, and Living Ardently at Living Ardently. All the links to that will be in the description. Again, those videos that we'll reference in the video will be in the description as well. You can send us DMs if you have any further questions or want to discuss further. That's what we can do. You can also text that number or call that number that I gave earlier, which is 407-853-2010. Y'all need to use that number more. I've only gotten one call off of that thing. So let's do it. Call it, text it, let's pray. And yeah, it's been a good question and answer. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing a special episode, but stay tuned for that.
I'm excited.
And we have
for that.
a special announcement at that episode, so stay tuned. A couple of weeks, the 5th Monday of August, we'll share some great news with y'all. So yeah, I think that's all we got. Make sure you send us DMs and subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. Leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and follow everywhere else. subscribe to the podcast on Instagram. I mean on YouTube, because we're trying to do a bit more video content. I'm gonna start doing some more like YouTube exclusive content. Some I do like Free Time Fridays and stuff, video formats. Except for last weekend, I didn't do one. So mea culpa. I just didn't have time. My computer broke, y'all. I was moping of it. Having to swallow the $350 to get this fixed. So pray for that. But yeah, so we're gonna make sure you go to subscribe to the YouTube, because we're gonna make some more exclusive content there where we maybe do some talks and reflections, as well as some fun stuff there as well. So go check it out, and anything else?
Nothing else. I don't know. Stay tuned for Living Person.
Check this out.
We're gonna be releasing those 40 T-shirts that I ordered soon. So, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, so just stay tuned to their website, because you guys you'll announce that, I guess, on the account too. All right.
Yeah, we got some cool collaborations coming up. We have a collaboration coming up with Thrifted and Threaded.
Oh, nice.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. Just stay tuned, and you'll hear it when it comes out. livingperson.com or their Instagram account .living.person. And that is it. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening, and thanks for sending the questions. Make sure you send some more next month. You can send it throughout the month. Whenever they come up, just send them. So you can send it a DM. You can send it a voice memo.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, it'd be great. All right, y'all. God bless. And until next week,
keep living ardently.
Peace. Let's go.
See y'all. Have a good week. Have a good month.
Yeah, year. Rest of it.
Awesome. Dude, thank you, man. I gotta go relieve my dad. You wanna catch up